Right, so we're taking a different angle on a conversation. We always are talking about developing the economy and the need to create more jobs and businesses. However, very hardly do we actually think of the legal compliance in doing all of this. Law plays a critical role in shaping the economic land space, defending funding principles for small to medium-sized business, and shaping policy for protecting new homegrown innovations, I should say. Law firm Adams & Adams hosted their annual Crammer event that sought to unpack all of this. And to give us more insight, we're joined in studio by Darren Olivier. He's the head of intellectual property, commercialization and partner at Adams & Adams. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thanks, Liam.
Awesome. So law and development economics, obviously they go hand in hand, but we don't often think that they do. Even though we want to boost the economy, we need to comply with a legal framework. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Obviously, I think actually just to dive into an example, the cannabis industry, for example, is opening up, and we've seen it through a constitutional court judgment, and we've seen it in Tito Mbawani's speech, where they just see an opportunity to create jobs and revenue through this industry. And there you get it's a great example, obviously, the legal side just opening up gradually, and we have to comply with international laws and standards, as well as look after the safety of consumers. I'm talking about we as the law fraternity or the legal system. And then at the same time, make it a space where entrepreneurs can innovate and really take advantage of it to create jobs, revenue streams, etc.
Yeah. How compliant are we as South Africans? How compliant is South African business, I should say?
I think South African laws are actually excellent by world standards. I mean, we will find, I think our trickiness is not so much what laws are in place, because there are many laws in place, but often it's the enforceability of the law or the policing of the law, and not necessarily, I'm not talking just about policing, etc. I'm talking from the courts to the efficiencies of our system, the efficiencies of registries in getting things done, so that it doesn't create red tape and inhibit business. So I think we've got really good laws, but sometimes they struggle to keep up to date with the efficiency of business.
So we see that many products are developed and services in government and private businesses, business incubators. However, often these incubators have some rights to the products, and that's a very, very big issue. And the inventors that create them. What's the legal framework surrounding this? Yeah,
so that's a really good point. So, I mean, Adams & Adams as a firm focuses primarily on intellectual property. Although a general service firm, it's been around for 100 years. It's all about, actually kind of uniquely about innovation and taking and protecting innovation, and at the same time allowing your entrepreneur to develop. So the government is also looking to create growth, and we are seeing this by various legislation to incentivize, let's say, incubators or university-funded university-funded technology to become commercialized. And so they have various acts that are meant to get this going. And there are some rules around it, like, for example, that, you know, who owns the IP if it's in an incubator, or if they're public funds, and how do you get the IP out the country, or can you get the IP, intellectual property, out the country? So these are all these things that are happening around, and sometimes they're unintended consequences. So the idea of creating innovation within a community sometimes is inhibited by the very laws that are intending for it to happen, and so. There's a whole industry around that, and that's just another example of, you know, where they connect. But yeah. I think the legal system has a huge part to play, as well as the lawyers, in making it the law accessible, available, educating people about the law to ensure that growth can occur.
So let's give a little bit of advice and make it quite practical. I mean, if you're out there, I've invented something, I've come up with some brand new business model, what are my legal rights around this? How do I protect myself?
Yeah, so I think, I hate to say it, unfortunately, you have to go and speak to a lawyer.
Okay.
There is quite a lot of
First step.
But look, I mean, I think, and the lawyer's got to make himself accessible at no cost as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot of material on the internet. But I think as an entrepreneur is to be awake to the fact that there are systems in place that will protect your innovation. So I think as a society we'll agree that South Africans are very good at creative, innovative, And then there's the next step is protecting it.
So I'm going to bring in
Yes.
an example while you're speaking, and then we can make it even more practical in our head. Remember that instance where I think it was a lady that developed a product, and then Woolworths took it, and they went and made it as their own. But then they did meet as a sort of like, it was a baby carrier. Do you remember that story?
Yep.
So let's give that as an example that people can learn from.
Yeah, so without talking directly about Woolworths, but that example...
No, certainly, but just as an example.
Yeah, as an example. So this is typically what happens. So you'll go and you come up with a great idea, wherever it comes from. You'll go to a braai and you'll tell that to your friend. And your friend will think... Your friend doesn't think, but... the next time you see your ideas being replicated, or you go to a company for funding, or you go to any third party where you're sharing your idea, and often one has to protect that before you do that step. So the entrepreneur first should go and either get a patent on his idea or sign a confidentiality arrangement so that there's an understanding about how to treat this innovation, because often that furthers innovation, but you want to protect that kind of occurring.
That patent that you're getting, that is a South African patent, right?
Correct.
But say I am, you're talking around this braai, but I happen to live in Botswana or Angola, and I hear this and I think, wow, this is actually really good. Even though I've patented the idea in South Africa, I can go and do it in my home country.
Yeah, well, you won't be able to do it in your own home country. Once you patent it once in the world, you can't patent it basically anywhere else.
So once it's patented in one country, you cannot go ahead and do that?
Yeah, you can't patent it anywhere else, but you can exploit it somewhere else.
Okay.
So in other words, if you had an idea that you thought could be replicated worldwide or in various countries of the world, is to go and patent it in those particular countries as well, so as to protect the area for commercialization.
Costs a lot of money, I'm sure.
It can, but I think this is again where the lawyer can come in and assist you, because there's a timing process. So if you get the lawyer working with the funder, you can often offset the cost to the funder, so the risk is taken on by the funder, not necessarily by the entrepreneur.
Very interesting. So, okay, intellectual property rights, how do they work in South Africa?
Yeah, so there are 5 different types. So patents we've already talked about. Copyright, which is free, by the way, and exists automatically. So right now we are creating copyright. Trademarks, it's brands. Morning Live is an example of a trademark. Designs, the look and feel of that chair is an example of an aesthetic design. And then know-how. Everything that you keep in your head and you keep secrets is protected by know-how. And I think the important thing to realize is that actually only one of them you have to pay for initially. Even trademarks you can register it or you don't have to, but they arise naturally and are often at no cost. But one has to just kind of capitulate them, use them correctly so that you are protected and you can take advantage of them.
Finally, I want to take a look at something that, this buzzword that is called 4IR, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. You made quite an interesting comment where you're saying that South Africa and Africa in general actually missed out on the other 3 industrial revolutions, which scares me, and saying that if we don't watch out, we're going to miss out on this one as well, which is already taking place. I mean, we're seeing people losing their jobs. We're seeing people falling at the feet of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. That is not about to happen. That is happening. What do we do? I mean, as South Africa, what do we do to prepare ourselves for the eventuality of where we're at?
Yeah, I mean, it's happening in our own organisation. I think is to be part of the conversation, and also not, I think from our perspective, is to embrace the conversation. First of all, embrace the conversation, the inevitability of change, but also to realise that actually South Africa as a nation is actually better placed than some of the more developed nations to take advantage of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So what you're finding is that technology skips. So whereas it's difficult to get new technologies in established countries and economies, in new economies you find that the adoption of new technologies is significantly quicker. So if you look at, for example, mobile banking and mobile payment systems in Kenya, it's significantly quicker than anywhere else in the world.
I tend to agree, yeah.
So, and I think South Africa is also well placed for that type of development to occur.
Yeah, so we need to jump on this, and that's the area where we need to really develop ourselves more as a country. When we talk about job creation, as much as we lose jobs, there is so much potential to create jobs through this industrial revolution.
Absolutely, so exactly. And if you take advantage of it, you realize then you've got a step on the rest. You've got a first-to-market advantage, and then you use intellectual property to protect that. And that's how it kind of, the virtuous circle is created. It's only an element. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's important.
Fantastic. Darren, thanks for talking
Thanks,
to us.
Jen.
Interesting conversation. So if you've invented something, I hope we've given you a little bit of food for thought, though. Go out there and protect it. Protect it first before you open your mouth and tell everybody how exciting it is. And then the next second, you see it being sold elsewhere. Remember, people are looking for ideas all the time, and you may just have one for them. Darren Olivier is the head of intellectual property commercialization and is also a partner at Adams. And Adams talking to us about the law regarding development, the fourth industrial revolution, and the need to create more jobs and businesses. Let's take a break.